You don't have to venture far to find paradise. It lies right on Europe's doorstep. Come and discover a world as you have never seen it before. So unique that it was declared a World Natural Heritage Site. The Schleswig-Holstein Wadden Sea National Park extends from Denmark in the north to the River Elbe in the south. With its 4,400 square kilometres, it is the largest national park between the North Cape and Sicily. A habitat that changes its face twice a day. Submerged during high tide, the water recedes at low tide to a third of the Wadden Sea area. This is one of the last regions in Central Europe where nature is largely left to its own devices, undisturbed by man. Letting nature be nature. Every year, Tritian drifts 30 metres further east. Terns, seagulls, spoonbills and peregrine falcons come to this secluded landscape to breed. For humans that means restricted access. With one exception, an ornithologist from the German Society for Nature Conservation, who lives here from March to October, all by herself. Every day she counts the birds, a task that certainly keeps her busy. 2 million migratory birds stop off at Schleswig-Holstein's Wadden Sea to rest. They travel up to 4,000 kilometres here, from their breeding grounds in Canada, Scandinavia and the Russian Arctic Sea coast. The mudflats and salt marshes are a rich source of food. Re-energised, their journey continues to West Africa, where they spend the winter. 200,000 birds also breed in the national park. The chicks profit from the fact that they can walk and feed on the seabed at low tide. It offers numerous tasty snacks. The Wadden Sea accommodates one of the largest bird populations in Europe. An international hub for bird migratory flyways. Also for the eider duck, which fly here in their thousands from the Baltic to molt undisturbed. Sand and beach, as far as the eye can see. The national park is also a place where the people from the 70 or so bordering communities come to relax. Walking in the sand for kilometres on end, letting the wind blow the cobwebs away, feeling in tune with nature. At low tide, the sea leaves behind tidal channels. Driven by the forces of gravity, the water finds a different route every few hours and draws new patterns in the mudflats. A time-lapse shows the inhabitants emerging. Worms, snails, crabs and mussels populate the mudflats. Extraordinary creatures perfectly adapted to life on the borderline between sea and land. Like this cockle that can hide itself in the mud within seconds. Or the lugworm that leaves spaghetti-like mounds. The exposed seabed also invites people to come for a walk. A variety of guided tours, certified by the National Park, are on offer into this unique natural landscape. always observing the rhythm of the tides. For as appealing as a trip to the mudflats at low tide may be, it only takes hours for the sea to take over once again. In the middle of the national park lies Zuiderorg, one of the Hallig Islands in the North Frisian Wadden Sea. The Halligen have no dikes to protect them against the high tide. Instead, the houses have been built on man-made mounds called Warften. The Hallig is farmed ecologically. Here no one needs television. The farm animals and the wild birds on the saltmarshes provide enough entertainment. "280 people live on the Hallig Islands. They trust in their Warften to be high enough when the sea gets rougher in autumn. Then life becomes tough here, and the land is swallowed by the sea. A threat of a different kind is the Mittelplatte. Germany's only oil drilling platform is right in the middle of the national park. A contradiction that only exists because the facility had already been granted a continuation permit when the national park was declared in 1985. The energy supplies of the future will be generated by other means. By 2020, Schleswig-Holstein aims to cover its entire energy demands with wind energy. They too are a frequent sight on the coast. Shrimp boats are out in the Wadden Sea day and night, often accompanied by a cloud of screeching gulls waiting to swoop down on the bycatch. Baby plaice and young sole, natives of the Wadden Sea, are thrown back in when they are caught unintentionally. Many fishermen are keen to reduce the amount of bycatch with new fishing techniques. Then the gulls will have to go scavenging elsewhere. In the most highly protected area of the national park, there are even greedier fish lovers. After a hearty meal, the seals bask in the sun. Hundreds of them lie lazily on the sandbanks. In the 70s, they had become a rare sight. Only when seal hunting was forbidden, the populations recovered. Today, there are over 10,000 seals in the Schleswig-Holstein Wadden Sea. Guided boat trips certified by the National Park Office take people to the sandbanks for some seal spotting. Saltmarshes mark the transition between sea and land. They are frequently flooded at high tide. Many plants and small animals have adapted to this salty habitat and can only survive here. Through efforts of the National Park Office, many of the salt marshes used as grazing land have been returned to nature. Visible from afar, Westerhefer, the most photographed lighthouse on the German coast. The two former wardens' houses are now a national park station. Here young volunteers stay for a year as wardens. The spectacular view from the tower is an added bonus. In spring and autumn, daredevil flights can be observed on the sandbank in front of the lighthouse. Schleswig-Holstein's Wadden Sea is an area of unspoilt nature in the heart of Europe. In 2009, it was declared a World Natural Heritage Site. This puts it on a par with Serengeti and the Great Barrier Reef. A unique world where life flourishes. The people here are proud of their World Heritage and are happy to help it survive.